Hello and welcome to Frameworks, John Carpenter's The Podcast of the Damned. I am here as usual. My name's Al Schwartz. With me, as also for usual and for better and worse, John Bernhard.
Yeah, I'm here. So what are we talking about today, Al? What's our
We're talking about John Carpenter's Village of the Damned, which I believe is a motion picture.
Sure.
It has like a beginning,
boxes, yeah,
and an end. I guess it has a middle. Maybe it has two middles. I don't know. There's recognizable faces in it. Mark Hamill's in there.
He sure is
trying to like shoot a baby with a shotgun or something. It's just not a good movie, man. I mean, it's
certainly not.
It's very anemic.
There's not much to this. What the hell do you even say about this? This is what we've been like trying to figure out. Like, how do we do a podcast on Village of the Damned?
Yeah, I'd never seen this one, so I didn't know. I mean, I went in with like, maybe it's better than its reputation, which it doesn't have much reputation. Almost more damning in certain ways. I mean, but right off the bat, like my modest hopes were kind of dashed because there was no Carpenter score over the credits. And it's just kind of immediately like, well, shit.
I mean, it has a score.
Yeah, actually, no, it's credited to him, but that's maybe a worse sign that it's not identifiable to him in any way.
I think it's an okay one. It has a little bit of like Goblin from Suspiria, a little bit of, Italian-y giallo style to it. It's not his usual thing. I think the score is probably one of the better things about this movie, to be honest.
What are the other candidates for MVP here?
Well, the cast is great. It's just they're all bad in the movie. So, I'm
not sure. I think Kirstie Alley sucks, probably. Like just in general.
Yeah. No. I mean, look, she's great on Cheers. She's great in Star Trek 2. Okay. I have no real problem with her in her heyday from the Look Who's Talking films and things of that ilk. I guess I kind of do have a problem with her later in life. But
I'm trying to think, like, why do I know her? Because I didn't watch Cheers when I was a kid. That was something my parents watched. I remember it coming on was a sign that it was my bedtime, right. If the Cheers or the Cheers ending theme and the MASH opening theme were like signs that I should not be caught outside of my room anymore. So I didn't know her from Cheers really. I think she was fine on there. I didn't mind the Look Who's Talking movies as a kid. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, where she is from. She's like one of our few hometown celebrities. I just saw her buying tacos by my house when I was a kid. Even that, like, was like, hey, that's that famous person from Look Who's Talking. But I don't know. It wasn't as exciting as it should have been for a 10-year-old to see a famous person from the TV on. And I think it's because, you know what? She's not that good overall.
I like her. Not much. I have no intention of mounting a Kirstie Alley defense at this moment. But, I have nostalgic memory of Cheers. Like, and that was very much my era of Cheers. I wasn't there for the Diane years, the what's her name? Shelley Long. I didn't see those as a kid. I saw Kirstie Alley as Rebecca, and I like that. I like Look Who's Talking. I like Saavik in Star Trek. So I'm, I guess, in theory, rooting for her. As she became, as I became a little more aware of her real life persona, which is very, very Scientology driven. Like I think David Miscavige should be president of the United States, kind of shit. And just some of the expected Trumpiness in her later years, of course. All that stuff is not particularly endearing to me.
Does that come with Scientology territory these days? I haven't even.
It comes with crazy, I think.
Oh yeah, I guess it does. True. Pretty much anybody who's fully off the reservation sort of finds a way to tell themselves that's the thing is like Trump is speaking in tongues at all times. You just can never tell what the fuck he's talking about. So the true crazies convince themselves that he's talking about whatever it is that they're into.
Mm-hmm. That is the most damning thing that Randy Quaid has gotten into for me. Of it all. That's when I was just like, I'm disappointed in you, Randy Quaid. I didn't think it was possible all these years in, but you have found a way.
Yes. I didn't think I had high expectations of Randy Quaid, but no, okay. I don't know. Like, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm not here. I don't want to say anything bad about Mark Hamill or Christopher Reeve.
No.
For as much of a geek as I am, I don't hold them in like super high reverence. I thought the superhero movies were fine when I was a kid, but Superman was never my guy.
Right.
So, and I don't know him from anything else. And even like Hamill, I don't like. I love Star Wars, but I don't know that I ever held Luke Skywalker as was the most important figure in my life ever. Like, I don't know if he was ever my favorite character in Star Wars, even when I was 6.
There was a period for me, 3 to 5, I would say, where Luke was my guy. But like, he's kind of famously not great in those movies.
Yeah,
it's okay. He's still Luke Skywalker.
He's become a very good voice actor later in life. But
yeah, he's great as the Joker, of course. So
yeah.
So I do have I don't know. I like Mark Hamill. Even a bad Mark Hamill performance is fun for me most of the time.
I like Mark Hamill. I'm saying I don't get the charge of Mark Hamill's in this that I think some of my compatriots in like at a similar level of geekdom do.
Well, it's certainly not like you're not going to see something great when he shows up necessarily. He's pretty bad in this movie. Not that he has much to do. I kind of want him to freak out more, be weirder, say dumber stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's this movie needs somebody going way higher over the top than anybody actually is.
Oh man, some crazy guy would have helped this movie so much. And Mark Hamill was right there. Yeah.
One guy, maybe this is MVP of the whole picture. There's one guy in like the meeting who's like rubbing his fingers together over the $3,000 allowance his daughter's going to get.
He's good.
That guy is probably the MVP of the movie to me.
I don't know. Maybe Buck Flower. It's a pretty fun Buck Flower performance. Coming in and threatening alien children with his broom.
Yeah, he's just yelling "fuck you" at kids, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so what this movie is, and if in case you haven't seen it, which I don't know, I think there's a good chance people wouldn't have seen this one. It's about evil children in a town. There is a weird supernatural event in a small California town where everyone within the city limits passes out for a few hours. When they wake up, 10 of the women in the city are pregnant through mysterious, unexplained means. And it turns out it's because they were impregnated by aliens, and the children grow up into, frightening little alien children that have the power to persuade you to kill yourself with their minds or their eyes, maybe. That's it.
It's a movie about evil telekinetic children terrorizing a village. And I don't like what's the most remarkable thing about this movie to me is how much more boring this movie about evil children telekinetically terrorizing a village gets once the evil telekinetic children show up and start terrorizing the village.
Seriously. Yeah, they're terrible. These kids are terrible.
Yeah. And the setup is actually is creepy. We set up the under the dome type thing where everybody passes out and the government shows up and is trying to figure out what's going on, but anybody they send in just immediately passes out when they cross the invisible line. It is so creepy.
The first 20 to 30 minutes of this movie are okay.
Yeah. Then the movie starts.
Yeah. There's some great imagery in that opening. I mean, it does feel like a small town and shit's going down, You're introduced to the impressive cast on paper. A lot of like, you got Superman and Luke Skywalker in there. You got Kirstie Alley. You got Linda Kozlowski of the Crocodile Dundee films. I don't know if you got that. She's sort of the...
That's what I knew that face from. Okay.
Sort of the protagonist, I guess. Reeve is really, but...
Reeves must be.
Mm-hmm. And you got Carpenter mainstays like Buck Flower and Peter Jason. Peter Jason looking great in this, by the way. Really, just Kenny Rogers, man. It's a good look for him. Long hair and beard. And there's some good gruesome stuff that happens early on. Like when everyone passes out, I love that one guy falls onto the barbecue, the open barbecue.
Yeah, and just
cooks there.
Roasts up.
Yeah. That's pretty fun. And then nothing. Then it turns into shit. Completely.
Yeah, there's like one other good kill, which is the kids making Buck Flower impale himself on, like, climb a ladder and jump off onto his own broom handle, impale himself. And it's like, but I don't know. The whole thing is these children of the damned, they're just little freaking freaks, like,
well, they're not believable as children.
Right.
Which is the whole problem. Like, it seems like the purpose of this story is like, it's the subversion of innocence, but if you never believe them as children, and this movie goes like way out of its way to make sure you don't, then that doesn't function at all. They're just little monster things that don't have much personality. And everyone is like, by the time we catch up with them after the flash forward so that they can be 8 years old instead of babies, the whole town knows they're evil, knows that they're fucked, and doesn't seem inclined to do much about it the whole movie.
Yeah, so this the setup of this surprised me because I knew this was an evil child movie, and I thought that it would be something like possesses these children, like these are normal children that become evil when they're 6 or 8 or whatever how old they are. Yeah. The setup of this is totally different, and that it would be like nobody knows what's going on in this isolated town. Nobody would believe us, but it's very much different than that. Like I said, that whole first 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, this is not what I expected because the government is on top of it right away. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows this is a big honking paranormal occurrence. And the government is setting up a program to do a long-term study of these children as they come out, and they're going to fund this town. I don't know how it's weird that the government's pumping $3,000 a month into the pockets of everybody in town. And yet they still can't like keep a park cleaned up or an ice cream shop open. But it's a ghost. We jump forward, like you said, there's a fast forward after the babies are born to when they're like 8 years old. And it's like, well, I have completely lost any tether to what these people like think or feel about any of this now, because it is obvious these are not your children. Like these are alien freaks.
Yeah,
they're not even they're not making an effort to fool you. Like,
nope.
Do these kids do normal stuff? Like, do they fight their parents about taking a bath, or do they just do Twilight Zone eyes at them and say, no, I'm not taking my bath tonight?
I assume that, I assume that that we catch up with these people after they've been victimized by these aliens for 8 years or whatever. And they're all sort of like, sanguine about it at this point, you get like, well, things are getting worse and we know whose fault that is. What are we going to do about it? Nothing, I guess, until, the third act when, they do the predicted things and badly, like they fail to stand up to the children later. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
But it's not like it's not like the Twilight Zone episode where they're living in constant like terror, like white knuckle terror of
that would
to be put
so
wrong.
Better. Mm-hmm.
It's that they're kind of sanguine about it in a way where it's like, it's what it's like raising evil devil kids. It's a hassle.
Yeah.
And the government doesn't seem to be doing anything about I want them to be more involved. Like, I don't know. Chrissy Alley's character is the government representative, right? She's the scientist, and
sort of doing an Agent Scully thing, sort of a mean Agent Scully, I guess.
Yeah. Well, she's mean. We're not supposed to like her, right? Except I'm like,
she doesn't do anything mean, but she sort of acts mean.
No. Yeah. She chain smokes, which I think was, codes her as like, we're not supposed to like her that much or fight that, and she's kind of jerky, but it's like, what we're dealing with here is, like I said, a documented paranormal event that indicates that there is an alien or supernatural intelligence at work that is capable and interested in meddling with human biology and physiology. Kirstie Alley's manners are so far like down the list of things I'm concerned about in given this scenario.
I don't think Carpenter's going to make a movie where the government representative is the hero. I don't think he's going to make that film.
No.
So she's just
but
sort of
weird how involved they are, but not active.
Yeah, they're not active at all. I mean, they kind of fund it basically. That's all they really do. And beyond that,
there's no indication of where the funding is going at all. Like, they take one baby out when it's born, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, that thing, they steal a baby that is stillborn. One of the 10 babies is stillborn alien.
And it looks like a garbage pail kid.
Yeah. Now correct me if I'm wrong. The point is that the physiology is that they're humans. Like there's something that we can't detect about them. So why is one of them an alien? I don't understand that. Like they didn't all come out alien.
Didn't have time. Why if they can, imitate our bone structure and our eyes and the keratin on our nails and everything, like why do they all choose to have like silver page boy haircuts?
Oh, okay. This is the biggest mistake in the entire film, I think. Like,
yeah.
Okay, this is based on a 1950s sci-fi horror film, kind of a sensational thing, an evil kid movie. And in that movie, they all have these platinum blonde white wigs, that
in turn based on a book.
Right, the Midwich Cuckoos. Yeah. Way better name, by the way. I guess you can't sell that name, but it's still a way better name.
No. And I kind of, so that was a British thing. And proper like buttoned up British like I something about this is more viable as the parents and the government are like in mid-century Britain are just kind of too polite to do anything about it. the evilness of the children, like that I buy more than I do in 1990s America.
Well, yeah, and I think the real problem here is that, I mean, yes, there's the cultural difference, but it's also 40 years later, and Carpenter has done very little, pretty much nothing to update this story in any way at all, right down to the look of the alien kids, which, man, does it not work in this context. No. And this is crazy, because this is the guy who took 1950s thing, which, it's good, but it's it is, at the end of the day, it's a guy in a rubber monster suit chasing people across a set, and turned it into one of the greatest films of all time, horror or otherwise. The Thing is incredible creative masterwork that it just reworks the entire thing, and it's just,
well, it has its own take on that monster that is doing a whole thing that the 50s version is not doing. This, not having seen the 50s version of Village of the Damned, I could not guess at one thing that it's doing. It's not doing very much things. So
there was zero.
Can't be that many things.
There was zero innovation here. I don't know what it adds. I mean, I guess the kills are a little gruesomer, but even then, like, you don't see anything. It's all like off camera. Like, they are conceptually gross kills, but there's not a drop of blood in this film. You could tell me this was PG-13 and I'd believe it. I don't think it is. I think it's R. But the
guy burned up on the grill is kind of gross, but it's not bloody.
The grossest,
because it's Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru,
Right. That would have been at least something, a way to distinguish this movie in one way if it were super violent. If you saw Kirstie Alley's death instead of just sort of imagined it, then, at least I could go, ooh, or whatever. But it doesn't give you that. Not at all.
You're starting to sound like me talking about They Live. That was...
Well, I wanted more goop in that one, too, for God's sake.
No, but they could both use more goop. Is my only point of comparison.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to more goop in either, but I think this film is. I'm just grasping at straws with Village of the Damned.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't think this is a terrible film. I think it's watchable.
I think it's terrible.
It's the worst Carpenter movie we've watched. That's for sure. I think he's maybe a little baseline competent to make this thing a little bit like better than just the most terrible shit, but it's a real thin line in this case, man. It's rough.
Yeah,
it's rough.
I mean, you're watching these. So these kids, their eyes go red, and they can like sort of read the minds of the adults, and then sometimes sort of force Jedi mind trick the adults into doing things against their will.
Little suicides and self harms. Yep. Yeah,
and so I don't know, like, but when you watch this on screen, like, I guess I could see how on paper, in a book, perhaps reading some of these events occurring would be creepy, but on screen, seeing an evil baby's eyes turn red and make her mom like do stuff is hilarious.
It's a little funny.
And when they're like evil Muppets marching and like goose stepping around in perfect 4x2 lines around town, it's adorable. But what none of it is scary.
The cutest thing in this for me is it's the sort of the lead evil child, which is Christopher Reeve's daughter. Has the worst wig for sure, and the performance she is giving this little girl is sort of like erudite villain. All of her lines are hilarious. They're like right out of I don't know, like serial villain 1930s comic books. So it's like, oh well, so it would seem the question now presents itself: should we allow you to live? It's all that sort of bullshit. Everything that comes out of her mouth, and it's just another thing that makes these not kids. It refuses to ever engage with its own premise in this way.
It's not bad. Just. I guess the thing to make clear here, we're not just saying that these kids they fail to register as kids, these alien freaks, to us in the audience. They don't convince the characters that they're human at any point, and yet nobody does anything about that. That's the weird dissonance. That just, even as things are happening in this movie, it doesn't feel like it's the right things that anybody's focused on. Doing anything. It's like, why? Mm-hmm. But what were you doing for 7 years?
Yeah, and there's just so many dumb, like, there's one moment when Kirstie Alley, like, drops the Arthur Conan Doyle quote, which is,
yeah.
If you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. There is so much impossible shit going on in this movie. Like, there's nothing to eliminate because it's all impossible shit. This is such a muddled, confused. I mean, ultimately what it is, it's about nothing. It's a film about nothing.
Yes.
It's, if you dig into it at all, you find out he shot it in his hometown. Like, what we're looking at in Village of the Damned is where John Carpenter lives. So, like, they shot it, he would roll out of bed and go to set. This is the easiest possible shoot. It's, what is the most convenient thing for me to do? This is the only film, I think, in the entire filmography where I'm kind of mad at John Carpenter.
Well,
I feel bad for him sometimes.
Invisible Man in that way a lot, because I feel like Invisible Man also evinces a lot of lack of effort. Although it's more effects heavy, which
the effects are effortful in Invisible Man. I can be like, well, at least he must have been engaged with those on some level, and they must have been a pain in the ass too, especially with Chevy Chase at the center of them. This one, like, what was anyone doing this for? This was a $22 million movie. That's more than most of his movies cost. It might be the second most expensive film he's made, actually.
Where I mean,
how'd that happen?
Yeah, it's just like, I feel like within the movie and on the meta level, where did the money go? Mm-hmm. They're pumping a lot of money into this premise that with nothing to show for it.
I don't think Christopher Reeve's quote was that big. Yeah,
you wouldn't think so.
I don't know. And especially since they shot it in his backyard. I don't get it. I mean, this movie is better as a Simpsons joke than as an actual movie. Like, this,
yeah.
I think there's literally a Village of the Damned Simpsons Halloween episode or something that probably works more successfully as horror than this.
Probably does, and I'm sure it's riffing on the original movie, not this one even.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is also an invisible movie. I don't think. I mean, probably the least important Carpenter film. I don't know. The Ward we haven't. No one's seen The Ward, so who knows?
No one's seen it. Yeah, we'll get to that one. It's certainly, of all the movies we've done so far, even like we did Following, like Christopher Nolan's student film.
Yeah,
like they all had more going on than this.
This is better than Piranha 2: The Spawning.
But that at least is an entertaining kind of bad, and it fits and starts. 70s monster movie is an entertaining kind of bad movie. 90s evil child movie is not. I don't know. This doesn't even it sounds like a movie about telekinetic evil children terrorizing a village should be more inherently interesting than this. Even if it's not good, it should be more fun in its badness in a way. This isn't even. I mean, like I said, it's not even that bad. I guess it's just kind of nothing.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's better than terrible, which is damning in this case. Like, it would be better if it were absolutely shitty.
Yeah, and that's probably true of most movies, but I feel like especially this type of movie should be either real good and real scary or way, 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 way over the top.
This movie should be nuts. This should have all sorts like there are ham bone actors in this movie not being allowed to go ham. The closest you get, I feel, is Hamill's sort of church assistant. The old lady who kind of freaks out and runs has a big protest and then lights herself on fire. That's the closest you get to a real unhinged performance. But, I want more there too, for sure. Mostly I want Hamill to go nuts. I want Hamill to be the crazy guy. Weird misuse of him that he's not, even if Christopher Reeve, sort of steady, stoic Christopher Reeve kind of descends into a mania at the end. That would be a lot of fun, but not happening.
It'll be something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just doing he's thinking real hard at the end. That's what he's doing. What an underwhelming ending too, by the way. What a nothing ending to this. Like, it plays with sort of like apocalyptic stakes a little bit, and you get a lot of cars blowing up. And then, we just sort of, he lures him into the barn, and
they blow it up.
Yeah, and then a bomb goes off. And everyone dies. Except the one kid. But who cares? Who cares about that one kid? Is he good? Is he bad? Do we care? We don't. We don't give a shit one way or the other what that kid's deal is.
Yeah. I pointedly do not give a shit about that. I mean, I'm being asked repeatedly, like every 8 or 10 minutes throughout the bulk of this movie to give a shit about this kid. And every time I'm just like, unsubscribe. Get me out of here.
Do you know that he ended up growing up to play John Connor on the Sarah Connor Chronicles?
No, I did not.
Oh, now you do.
Pretty good, but never got around to it. And it's one that, like, it's just one that I know. I'm never going to make a decision not to watch it, but I'm never going to get to it.
No,
on the queue. Other things are going to keep jumping in front of it. So.
Oh yeah, and the farther we get from it, the less likely.
Mm-hmm.
Even with that cast, what is it? It's Lena Headey.
Who I love.
Yeah, and Garrett Dillahunt has apparently a major role. Yeah, I'd be into it, but I don't know. Every year that passes without me watching the Sarah Connor Chronicles, it feels that much farther away.
Yeah.
Well,
so we reached the point as every Village of the Damned podcast does, where we're just talking about the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
No, I'm tapped out, man. I got nothing else to say about this movie.
This is gonna be our shortest episode ever. It's really, it's remarkable how under the top this movie manages to be with this premise. I did not know you could get under the top this far. It seems to beg for over the top nuts performances every which way you look, and yet we looked and there's none. It's just a bunch of kids in dumb wigs marching around.
So this is a John Carpenter that I'm kind of dreading his future. I mean, I like if I see this film in 1994, I don't know. I mean, coming out the same year as In the Mouth of Madness, still crazy to me. But like this feels like the end, man. And I don't think there's anything else this bad ahead of us. But man, this is a guy who's checked out. This is a guy who does not give a shit anymore, and it's hard. That's a rough one.
Well, we're going to Escape from LA next, right? And that's him revisiting his own material, at least.
It sure is.
And his character, and with Kurt Russell, who, I mean, like I haven't seen Escape from LA since the theater. I didn't know who John Carpenter was. I hadn't seen Escape from New York when I saw Escape from LA in the theater in 94 or whatever, 95. I feel like he's got to be more invested there.
Well,
maybe not
this, yes.
fully, but than this. Yeah.
I mean,
or Invisible Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
and vampires at least seems like that's got to be gross at least, right?
I mean, it's much more functional than this in every way. Yeah. It's, not a great film, but it's much more of a movie than this. That's for sure. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Ghosts of Mars. We'll see. That might be kinship with this one. We'll see. Although that one's crazier than this one. That one actually has some nuts shit in it for sure. This one has nothing.
Yeah, but I thought this would at least have some scenery chewing. Like I said, I wouldn't have thought going into this that it could be this under the top, but such a thing is possible. Mm-hmm. So now I don't even know if I can trust John Carpenter doing Rio Bravo in space with Ice Cube to deliver on wackiness. I don't know. I can't trust anything anymore.
Okay, well, all right. So, swirling the drain on John Carpenter. Sadly, I don't know, man. I'm. There's no reason to stretch this out anymore, right? I mean, we're done here. Yeah. This is the end of the Village of the Damned episode. Thank you for listening. It's been a blast. Next time is Escape from LA. That one, at least we'll have more to talk about, I'm sure. I mean, the cast on that one's pretty impressive, too, man. Have you gotten a look at who he got to be in that movie?
Well, I remember Buscemi and Bruce Campbell being in it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of people who are hot in the mid-'90s. A lot of Dimension Miramax Tarantino friends in that one.
All right. Well, I want to be surprised now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that, it'll be better than this one. Promise.